Welcome, Tiny Hands Big Dreams, here on the homestead in southern Ecuador with a totally honest review. Honda generators. Honda is known to make great generators. Would I buy it again? Straight off the bat, super iffy on that one. It requires explanation. Is it a good generator? In general, yes. Honda makes an excellent generator. These things, people talk about them on the forums. Still running 6,000–7,000 hours with minimal maintenance. That's kind of awesome. Let's go through the pros and cons separately. Pros. It is quiet. It is about the largest generator that we can pick up and move around or put away if we're leaving. 60-ish pounds. 60-some pounds. It is easy to start. My wife, who has arm-shoulder issues, is able to start it just. Anything harder than this, she wouldn't be able to. So if I'm away, that's a real concern if there's some sort of power emergency. So it gets a plus there. This is an inverter generator. It is not an old school, simply turns a generator with a motor. It's all electronically controlled and disconnected. Now, that is good and bad. We'll get to the bad. The good is it provides super clean 120 volts on the nose, 60 hertz all the time. Does great. Look at it go. It's efficient on fuel. It has a eco throttle setting, which instead of just brah, like you're used to with old school generators, it'll come down and it'll run for the load that it's having to do. It'll run at the lowest possible RPM with as much throttle as possible. That saves a little on fuel, and it's a little quieter, especially if you're using it a lot for light loads. When camping once, Burning Man, that's an event. And the people next to us had a 9,000 watt generator that they had just bought from Depot, and they ran it night and day to run a single LED light bulb and a tiny fountain pump out behind their camp. Total load of 50 watts. And they kept pouring fuel into that thing like it's going out of style. I'm like, I'll just throw you a cord. It's nothing. Anyway, had to listen to that. So being quiet is a huge thing. Nice package. What else do I like about it? Well, in general, it's just a solid, reliable little generator. But it has its failings. Now, some of its failings. One. Where do I start? It's an inverter. With an inverter generator, and I'll demonstrate this in a minute with some tools, it provides perfect power up to its limit and then no more. And it electronically disconnects. It just turns off. That's it. So if you exceed its capacity, which a lot of things do starting up, it just kicks out. Here's when we hook it up to our inverter to charge our batteries on a day. Takes a few seconds. Picks up the load of the house. And then the inverter ramps in some load to charge the batteries. Now, that's sitting at about 70 or 80% of its total capacity. If the fridge kicks on, or the Cuisinart or something else, you'll hear it let go. I have it set in the inverter, so the inverter drops first. Because otherwise this overloads, and then I just have to come down, turn it off, and turn it up, start it again. So the inverter drops it when it hits its limit, and then sometimes picks it back up. Sometimes better. I had a smaller one of these as well. This is a 2200. I had a 1000, and the 1000 had a problem starting our fridge. It was just a little fridge. But the fridge, when it kicks on, takes a huge slug of power for a split second and then trickles back to 100 watts. Well, 100 watts is well within its limits. In rush starting current for capacitor start motors can be 4 or 5 times as much. So this and the other one has problems where it just doesn't. Now, an old school generator, which is just spinning around, it'll lug down for that split second, but you're using the inertia of the heavy parts to push the extra load, which will then go away, and it will come to a reasonable amount of wattage that, you know, it can handle. And this is where we run into problems. Now, we use this mostly for charging in case of, like today, where is sun? We live on solar, we're off grid. Where is sun? Hello, sun. We did not pay our sun bill, I guess. We're going to run a deficit on power today. How much? Depends. But in order to make it into sun tomorrow morning, if the sun doesn't come out today, I may need half an hour of generator time just to top up that little bit to get us over till tomorrow. It happens. We run a Victron inverter that powers our entire existence. They don't always play well together. In fact, Victron recommends not to get an inverter-based generator for that exact reason. When it switches over, when you turn on the generator, charge the system, it switches from batteries to generator, powers all the loads of the house, and then ramps up load to put into the batteries. And it does this, and it sets it all, and if we turn something on, we overrun it for a split second, like the wife turns on the Cuisinart or the blender. Spikes for a second, generator lets go, inverter disconnects, and sometimes they just don't reconnect again. The generator's still running on batteries again. You have to listen to it. You're like, that sounds wrong. Go down, check it. The damn thing. It's a problem. And that's probably my biggest gripe. Does it work for you? You have to understand what you're using it for. If you're going to take it camping and power a bunch of small stuff, this is great. They're awesome. Has a lot of features. Has a few that I wish it didn't. Has a carbon monoxide sensor, which people eventually say, the thing just sort of screws up and there's nothing you can do except tear it apart and order the part from Honda. Aw, poo. We're in the middle of the Amazon. What if that happens to us? This could be life or death. Thanks for the safety. Has Bluetooth, has a whole app, tracks everything. Yeah, fired that all up back when we were in Tennessee, got it going. Sweet, I can turn it off remotely. I can check the hours for the oil things. We get here, I turn it on, I check the Bluetooth app. Sorry, we don't work in that country. I'm like, well, I bought it in the US. I activated it in the US. I registered it in the US. I moved. Oh no, it's geofenced. Boom. Screw you, Honda. Can't take Honda things on adventures? Okay, that's a gripe. Doesn't have a fuel filter. Seems like a small thing. They're like 50 cents in scale. It has a screen on the intake. Well, that keeps out leaves and large bugs. But things that clog the tiny little orifices of the carburetor, like dust and little bits that come in gasoline, would be stopped by a fuel filter that are not stopped by said screen. And I've had to take the carburetor out and clean the dumb thing. There's this little screen. There, with gas even. See the little screen? I'll give you a close-up. No, it's pretty fine, but it's not fine enough. Should have put a fuel filter in Honda. They're like, it's a tiny maintenance thing. Most people, when the whole thing screws up and stops running or starts running badly, take it back to the Honda dealer, which maybe that's part of the design. Generates maintenance costs. Otherwise, it's pretty good. We have, I don't know how many hours are on this thing. I can't tell anymore because the Bluetooth app quit and it doesn't have a display here. We have a unique situation where we live literally at the Amazon off-grid. Would I buy it again for us? No. Is it more reliable than the cheap Chinese things that do show up here? Yes. Yes, it is, because we get nothing but like weird brand Chinese imports. Questionable quality. That being said, they are far cheaper. For the price that we paid for this, I can get a 6,000 watt key start diesel generator. Wow, like a nice one. I think we paid like $1,600 for this back when we bought it. To get one this size, $500 here for one that looks just like it, but is made in China. Would I have rather had 3 of those versus this one? I don't know. Gosh, that seems like pretty good backup too. So no, doesn't work with the inverter so well. Doesn't work for starting appliances, which I'm going to demonstrate here. For us, I wouldn't. Other uses, yeah, she does great, and she's quiet, and she sips fuel. And that's sort of what that is. Let me show you what it does with some normal loads, some tools. Craftsman skill saw, yeah. Rated at 15 amp. Standard tool, nothing fancy. Generator's ice cold. Hit the choke. It has a fuel switch. You can turn the fuel off, and you can kill the ignition with this. People do that so that when they sit it for a long time, they turn the fuel off, they let it run itself out of fuel, which is good. It doesn't screw up your carburetor. It's bad. Your fuel pump sits without fuel in it and dries out, and your fuel pump will quit. People have had problems with that, and they say do not use that function. If you're going to let it sit for a long time, you pop this cover, there's a little screw, it drains the carburetor directly. Far better answer. It's not as user easy though from the outside. I'm going to set it on the ground. The table makes extra noise. This is it on its eco setting. That's it when I let it run to full tilt. We're going to try it here. All right, you ready? Start this saw. Now, if you noticed, it does flash the overload light for a second, but it handles this. What about eco? You're working. You don't want to listen to the thing. That's great. Does it still start it? Yeah, it does. It's a little slower though. It definitely drops voltage. Okay. So, will it work on a job site? Yes. Let's try something a little bigger. Okay. Here is my jointer. 1940s, 50 vintage. Bag of shavings. Has a standard Dayton 1.5 horsepower motor. Has a cutting head. This is just a standard motor. Do you think it'll start this? Nope. Now that motor, when it's running, pulls about 8 amps. It might pull 12 amps when I'm using it, even up to 15, which is inside what the generator can do. Not today. Not any day. The inverter tries, but it hits its limit, and in software it shuts itself down. Had this been a standard old school dumb generator, it would have started it. It would have traded inertia of heavy metal pieces into a burst of a field. It started to compensate. It would have started the thing. Is this your scenario? I don't know. I don't know. But that's how we use it. And it gets into then you get more complicated scenarios. Say an RV. RVs are popular uses for this. Does your RV have a power system thing? Ours did. We had solar on our RV. And it kind of did the same thing. So you have your normal load of all the stuff. Say you're running like 700 watts, got the radio on, the lights, the things, the something. And then the fridge kicks on. It'll try for a few seconds. Usually enough. Not always. Say something else was on. You're still under your load limits. That peak kills you. So yes, I would recommend it for certain situations, for certain people. But you have to think about your specific scenario before I would go out and buy it. Now, the trade-in reliability, is it generally reliable? Yes. Let's see, I've cleaned the carburetor several times. Remember that fuel filter comment? Yeah, water gets you too. They don't like water. Then we get into oil is pretty easy to change, but you have to tip the whole thing sideways. It gets a little odd. I think that's the only thing I've done on it. I did rejet it per altitude, which you have to order jets. It's not super simple. You have to pull the carburetor apart and change your jet, or you have to take it to the dealer to do it and tell them where you're going to live, because it doesn't self-compensate. We're at 3,000 feet, so it had to be jetted just a touch leaner for that altitude. That's what it is. So it's a little good, a little bad. Works in some situations and not others. Thanks for watching Brutally Honest Reviews. We'll see you for the next one. Toby Dog.